I'm comfortable coming back to you with
I
that,
don't think we.
because, but I don't know that you care.
We better.
The council is dark in August.
Can it wait a
But
month?
we could do it, we could create an ad
council's
hoc
starting
subcommittee.
on it.
We can pick
I
it.
You
mean,
can, but I don't
do
think
you wanna
there's
wait
any
till
time.
September?
Time is not of the essence in the
Just to pass
selection.
it off.
I would
So
say
bring it
that,
back.
Pass it off. You know?
Say, you think we should review it or not?
I think we should just bring it to CCAC just for formality.
Okay.
You're gonna have the time, because the
Yeah.
council doesn't meet in August.
Okay,
right,
so
I'm
bring,
comfortable with
And
that.
I would like to hear Phil's.
Right, I don't think,
If that's the case.
and we want to hear Phil's decision.
Yeah.
I don't think time is of the essence, but with the caveat, I do have to check with Lisa, the town deputy planner, because this is sort of folded into the auspices of the environmental review.
Yeah.
And if she says, oh no, I need that by such and such,
Wait a
it may have to move forward, but I don't think so.
Well, but if it's tied into the EIR, I gotta stay out of it, because it'll come to the planning commission.
Ah, I think Phil's
So
correct.
Clive, can you do it?
Same.
So is that a definite that it is tied into?
Phil got away from the
It
plot.
is, I don't know that there's any conflict of interest legally,
Okay, so Phil is gonna do it unless Lisa says it's a conflict.
But I have to
and then
check with the
Clive
city
will
I
attorney.
do
don't
it.
wanna get caught up in that.
no,
Right.
you know Bill, you've heard his speech
I know.
about conflict often enough
I
to
think
know,
it
he
is.
won't let you get caught up.
Yeah, well, I won't either.
So Clive is your alternate, and he's your likely person, is that's it? And your goal is to come back at the
Probably in
August
August,
meet of this group,
yes.
so not end of August, whenever that is, whatever.
It's
day.
the, well, I don't know, I have to check with Phil's schedule.
I will not be here on the 11th, which is that Monday.
Oh, okay,
But you can make the presentation.
but you can, dictate a report to me or
Oh, I won't
something
be
if you
here on the
want.
11th either, so Rose.
Well,
What are we talking about? Our
The next
meeting?
CCAC.
As the chair, you can, if you wanna ask,
Yeah.
or we can poll when all of you are available, and if it's,
It's summer, I think.
Okay.
We'll go with who we got, and if we don't have a quorum, we just can't vote.
if you're comfortable, I mean, obviously, I think it'd be best if you were here to be able to speak in your own words, but if not, I'll give you the report, just like I've done
Do you
with
wanna,
this one.
we could look at the scheduling for that, if that's on.
And you can change whatever words in it you
Well,
want.
the question is whether there's a conflict. of
That I can find out tomorrow
interest. We're gonna
when
find
Bill
out
is here.
that.
Or Phil, are you gone that week? Or Clive?
Yeah,
The
on
week
the
of
11th,
I'm not, as far as I know, I'll be
You're
here.
around? Phil, you're gone or you're around?
I'm going where I can.
Are you gone the next week?
Depending on my choice, yes, no, no.
Yes or
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that vote is that important. I mean, we could have done this without having the CCAC actually vote on it, so.
What do you mean? We could have had what?
The
Well,
staff can
he
hire
could've-
geotech.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
typically
staff
I-
hired
You
you.
know,
I agree with Rose, but.
I think, I don't, I'm not saying that you're not qualified, I think you can, but I think that there's always that touching base issue and just saying,
Yeah.
this is what we recommend, somebody on our, with the CCAC has recommended this, and we'll just say.
We don't have to recommend a geotech.
Okay, I mean, just has reviewed it, been participant of, let's say that.
Yeah, I was only commenting on whether you have 4 people here or not.
Oh,
That's all I was commenting.
Who's gonna be here on the 11th? You two? Clive?
Yeah.
Paul, you come, oh, you got 4,
There
good.
you go.
Okay, good, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
And then, but the goal is you're coming in with a full recommendation, here, we're gonna hire this firm and move. So that for September, council, you're moving.
Correct.
All right, so we're gonna move off of, anything else on item 5?
So MAP 5 will presumably be on board to participate in the
Well,
selection?
I'm
Is that-
assuming that the council, I'm assuming the council will approve their contract this coming Wednesday, at which point they'll start work the following week, and, if I need them for 2 or 3 hours to read these and come and attend the meeting, then they'll do that, that's part of their
Okay.
role.
So the time clock has not started just with this, I mean, it can be just with this, and then we can hesitate and, wait till
We'll-
we're looking for
yeah, we'll-
architects and,
We'll pay them, we'll pay their hourly fee for that task,
okay,
but it's an hourly fee not to exceed.
okay. I just don't want this clock to start ticking with this, because that's,
This assumed, or their contract assumed that they would start next Monday. Again.
Well, they've got to get up to speed on the
Right,
current
yeah, there's
master
a,
plan. They've
the
got-
first thing they said they would do, and you may remember, that they said they would independently analyze the fee, or the cost estimate schedule
Right.
once they were hired. You know, I think Griffin,
Right,
you know, oh, look, I've already done this, and, you know, but they said, no, you know, they weren't willing to invest, because I think they're gonna spend a lot of time on that.
right. And I
First.
think that there's talk about having us spend some time on the square footage of the facility.
Oh, absolutely, but again, I
That's when
think
they
that's
get an architect.
after we
I
have a
know.
design, something for them to work with.
Right,
It's on page 2 of the scope.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
okay.
All right, that's okay, it's good, no, it's very valuable, no problem.
But to your, I just said, to your point before about how valuable to have them in the committee, I really think that's important.
I can invite them to the August meeting.
Yeah, some of these folks won't be here.
Yeah, but they may be
But,
coming to all of our
Rick,
meetings.
it's not a big deal, the geotech, they're gonna drill borings.
No, we're talking about the PM. I
Oh,
know.
the
Just to
PM.
meet them.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that'd be nice to have them come.
I
But
think-
maybe in September, whenever, well, they could come, there's only gonna be 4 people.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna, I don't know that it would necessarily, that you'd gain much to have them here in August, but if, in September, they can also give you input, by that time, they should have reviewed the cost estimate and schedule, and I think my schedule calls for having the RFP for the architect coming to you in about that time.
That's what I was gonna ask, is,
What?
Say what?
can we talk about it?
Oh, the
Well,
architect?
there's an ad hoc committee, I think.
Okay,
Well, that's so soon.
Well, you know, you asked, by the way, one of the questions you asked, why is this schedule driven? Let me answer. I put a schedule together, you asked to have a schedule come back to you. I'm trying to meet that schedule, you know, that's my job.
Okay.
If you relax it, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Makes my
No,
job
no,
easier,
no.
but I didn't think, but I don't have the
No, I
ability to say.
understand now. I think when we all get together as a larger group, we really need to hone down on the schedule, because it's really tied into fundraising.
yeah,
It really,
Oh, yeah.
really, you know, no money, we can't pay these
we've been
guys.
talking about it a lot.
Well,
So-
what the city.
It's circular, too.
What the
It
city-
went
Yeah,
circular,
yeah,
showed
but
everybody.
we just can't have something like, well, a normal schedule takes this long, and then just, but okay, a normal schedule takes that long. This is not that situation.
And this project may get to a point where it goes on hold. I mean, we hope
Yeah.
not.
Right.
It may get to a
Right.
point where we have to go raise money. We sure hope not. We don't,
Right.
nobody likes doing that.
I would point out that the city attorney, and I think I've shared this with you previously, he has opined that the town, you know, based on the vote that occurred a year ago, November, the town's funds cannot be used once you've engaged the design firm. Now, you know, when I say town funds, we have building funds that were fees paid with building permits with an eye toward replacing those structures over there. You know, good solid sneeze and they fall apart. So those are town monies subject to the direction of the city council. That's, as, you know, they're not tax monies. Then there's the library funds, you know, that are administered with cooperation from the JPA. Those are not covered by that plebiscite. But the other funds, the donations and whatever else would come in are. So he said, you can spend money for environmental, for planning, up until the point when you start design. So if we're having Nat 5 help with the geotech and help review the EIR and things like that, that's fine. But once you hire and help me craft the RFP for the architect, once you hire the design firm, that's a different story. And if you have a schedule that, you know, you'll want to change that going forward, that's fine, I just need to know that. Right now, you have the schedule, I've given it to you previously, I haven't changed that.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to stay on agenda. I don't see on here discuss the RFP for the architect, but in the scope of work for the project manager, we does talk about the RFP for the architect, so I'm gonna refer to this document so we talk about that. When would the project manager and the staff bring back to this committee the RFP for the architect?
I think that is scheduled, I have to recall the schedule. I think
September?
that's scheduled for September.
No, it should be August.
Well,
They won't have time.
August is
No, that's.
Well,
Well,
it's
that's a good
scheduled,
question.
the RFP is scheduled to come to the council in September.
right,
So to
It
be able
should
to
be
come
released
to
in
this
August.
meeting
Yeah,
and get input rather than a ratification,
yeah,
you need to target August.
yeah.
Because the proximity of this meeting to the council meeting is so close because of when it comes up in the month, that you don't have the agenda's already out for the
I
council
agree with
meeting.
that. So Gordon, when can you send that out? If you get an approved project manager on Wednesday?
I think I could meet that schedule to get it out to the committee. You know, it would typically it'd go out the Thursday before the meeting.
Okay.
But
So-
I might be able to get it done sooner.
Sooner, and even, so that would allow for the people who can't attend in person to send it in comments.
Or, I mean, if you have, because I think there is an ad hoc, I thought there was an ad hoc committee for, and if there isn't,
There was one before, yeah.
you could create a new ad hoc committee just to assist in that effort. But I understand it's going to come back to the full group. So I'm sure I can meet the August deadline. How much before that I can do, I'm not sure.
So this is just for the RFP?
Right.
For the RFP for the,
Correct.
Okay, so.
I think an ad hoc committee is a good idea if they can really move on it quickly.
You know, these ad hoc committees, you know, this PM has been a learning lesson to me too. I mean,
It's just one more step.
it's just one more step, and then everybody wants to have their say ultimately,
Mhm.
and then you want inclusiveness, and, you know, the architect is a bigger deal.
And everybody, we're talking about the RFP for the
It
architect.
doesn't, it's all,
Okay,
it's
so
all,
bring it here.
you know, you just include everybody, and then,
Okay.
you know, these subcommittees tend to, they work, but they also get pushback after things are decided, you know, and then we have to spend more time explaining ourselves. I mean, I don't know, maybe somebody
Some of us
else.
sat through the selection of the architect from the town center task force, and I think those that sat through that thing learned a bunch on how to look at an architect. And I think we ought to have a whack at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not
At
talking
the,
about
at the,
selection.
at the RFP, not the interviews. Everyone's gonna hear the interviews.
Yeah, we just
And
talked.
that was already expressed in the last
You're just
meeting.
talking
I
about
think you ought to
the,
look at the proposal that come
Yeah.
in, read them.
No, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about forming the actual request for proposal document that goes out.
So that can just, maybe they can just send that to, do you need even a subcommittee for that? Just send it to all of us, you know, email.
And hash it out, and, because
Well, but-
one alternative would have to be, would have a working group that would work with Gordon and the VM to generate the form of RFP that would then be sent to the entire committee for
Okay,
comments.
so if you're on it, if you're not on it, and some of us, see, okay.
I can't, I'm in the consequence.
Exactly, just so some of us are on it, you're gonna look at it with your background and say, hey, wait.
Yeah, but it's way further down the road. You guys are gonna hit 10, like, it's like 5 on the scope of work. 5 out of 10 of things, like,
Mhm.
and then when I reviewed it, I was like, yeah, okay, check. It was already there, I didn't think about it.
Well,
Okay,
I've written a lot of RFPs for the town, and they haven't changed a whole lot. And in my mind, the RFP just sort of sets out, it's like, you know, write the essay to go to college.
The RFP on this one is different, Gordon, in that there's a ton of outreach,
Yeah, but that goes.
just like we did with HMK, or whatever they call it.
My suggestion would be that the RFP go to the whole committee, not an ad
Okay.
hoc.
and also.
Because I think everybody's gonna want to have some
Not
input.
just outreach, this is what I'm concerned, because I've been in this situation before. Review periods for us. You know, we're selecting an architect, and do they know that we're gonna have maybe chunks of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where the town, we want to review, you know, various, you know, versions of their plan? I mean, you know, we can't review things in, you know, a few days. I mean, that's what's different about this project as well, or I think, you know, public projects, that there's a huge review periods that will add on to the schedule, and how do you
Yeah,
define that?
and in the last, here's what's different, Gordon, in the last go-round, we asked them to recommend a scope. And then from that, we tried to come up with one, when staff went back and negotiated a contract price. Are we gonna do that again, or are we gonna say, here's the scope? Here are the outreach meetings, here are the neighborhood meetings, here's the time frame. Here's the response period. Are we gonna lay out a whole scope, or what are we doing? And, because that's a pretty involved RFP.
We can't let them do it, because they don't know.
Or do you just do an a statement of qualifications, and then we pick one and negotiate a contract? I guess they're not bidding the project, are they?
No. What is, you know, I would say that you could do you can do either. You know, with a proposal, you get more specifics. You know, they'll, you know, we'll do this, we'll do that. With an RFP, we certainly can include, you know, in our last process, in our master plan, we discovered that it was very effective to go out to the neighborhoods and have group meetings, small group meetings to explain. If we want to have them do that, I put it right in here. You know, I think we were, speaking for the, you know, you guys as the committee, you were impressed with HMC because of how they presented their initial, you know, proposal to you. They showed that they really were cognizant of the need to do outreach and listen and get input. Other firms were less, oh, look, we've done this, we've done that, look, this is beautiful. So they sort of helped the committee define that, and then you further refined the process that said, specifically, we're gonna go out to neighborhoods. If you know you want that, it should go in the RFP, and then they can speak to that and their particular expertise
So how do
to
we
do it.
maximize the, we know we want that.
Yeah.
How do we maximize the probability that a month from now, a month less, you know, 5 days from now, you send out an RFP for our review that has that stuff as nailed as possible, so it can actually be approved on the 11th when you'll have 4.
Part of it is,
members.
I'm gonna work with Paul Beamer, who's worked on, you know, a couple of dozen civic projects. I'll also probably bring in Bob Williamson, who is
Yeah.
our architect, who has also worked on lots of projects. And we'll bring Gary back.
And do you have time to do that in the next 3 weeks?
Yes, that's
Because the real question
That's
is,
my
are we
job.
really gonna put this in a council meeting in September? Or do we need to change a meeting date?
No, I think your timing is right. If you can get that done in the next 3 weeks, you can send it out to this committee. The committee can review it before the August meeting. Even if you're not present, you
Yeah.
can still review it and give
Yeah,
some
yeah, right,
comments.
right.
And then the committee can decide to go forward at that meeting. Then you kind of have a lull. In fact, the committee could give you a bunch of feedback and you can make some changes. You have plenty of time before you have to put it in for the council meeting in September.
Yeah, then we just won't see it, we won't see it before the council packet.
fine. I mean, I can
You
send
won't see
it
it the
out.
second time. You could delegate a subcommittee to do that.
You will see it, just so you know. Your meeting's on September 8th.
And when's
The
the council
packet
meeting?
goes out on September 11th.
Oh, so there's 3 days. Corey could, okay, good. Ah, great. Okay, there you go. That works.
Piece of cake.
Okay,
That's right. Because of July 4th, this meeting got postponed a week.
okay, so, is there any further discussion on that?
The only thing, additional comment I wanted to make is that part of the rationale for getting the PM on board so soon to help with the RFP was that they could help with contractual issues.
Absolutely, and that will be part of their role.
Okay, so when you send out the architectural RFP, it will include the contract that we expect them to sign.
Right,
Okay.
right. By the way, I expect there will be a lot of interest in this, and I'm gonna talk to Paul and get his input, and Bob as well, but you may want, you know, I'll get their input as to suggestions to whether we want to do an SOQ first, and then only invite certain firms, because otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, we could get 40 proposals, and that would be a huge amount of work, and I'm not sure to what end it's gonna benefit, because there are gonna be people, you know, if you want people who specifically, you remember the firm that
Yeah.
had done the hotels and the resorts?
Yeah,
Brilliant design,
yeah.
but, you know, if you want City Hall to
Hell
look like a
Glacier or
resort,
whoever else.
it's great.
HOK, Hill Glacier, whoever it was, right?
Right, I can't remember who it was, but,
It was HOK and Hill Glacier. Yeah, office
yes.
buildings and,
Yeah.
hotel
Okay.
complex.
right.
Yeah.
But, so if you want to have a firm, if you want to specify some pre-qualifications, and it doesn't have to be two-step, you might say, you know,
You
has had
eliminated
to
if you
have
don't
worked
this.
on at least 2, you know, libraries, police stations, civic centers. That's gonna
That
reduce
should
your
be in your
universe.
RFP.
Right,
I would stay with a one-step process, but I would put
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
the prerequisites in the RFP.
I would caution just how much you get detailed on this RFP for architects since it's not agendized.
Okay,
Oh,
so
Providing direction.
we're gonna move on.
Having
Oh.
said that,
Okay, so ad hoc committee reports, master plan ad hoc committee has no report.
we reported.
Yeah. So I think in the future that needs to be, so Teresa, can I give you comments on the future what needs to be on the agenda?
Absolutely.
Okay, ad hoc committee report should be changed to architect selection. Sorry, it's not an ad hoc committee. Master plan ad hoc committee is done. It goes away.
Right.
Library ad hoc committee can stay on there. Outreach ad hoc committee can stay on there. Budget ad hoc committee can probably stay on there.
That was for the police.
It'll come back up.
Just for-
It'll come back up. It was the one that, no, it's the one that trimmed this way down.
Oh, okay.
It's the one who went through that and got.
Oh, that was us, okay.
Project management ad hoc committee, that will stay on there, because there'll probably be a subgroup that meets more often than monthly with PM and important.
Oh, yeah.
What's not on this agenda that needs to be on there every time
Schedule,
is schedule.
schedule.
Architect selection, it's gonna be on there for a while.
Okay.
Scheduling the next meeting, is that going to be on there?
When you say architect selection, just discussion of.
Yeah, anything revolving the architect selection, yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Can new business be an agenda item?
Well,
No, it's regular agenda, that's the new business.
It is,
It
okay,
has to
all
be-
right, all right.
It has to be noticed, you can't bring it up at the meeting.
Okay, rescheduling your next meeting, does that have to be agendized?
We could put at the end of every agenda, next meeting.
Confirm next meeting.
Next meeting date.
Okay, and maybe, but give us the ability to discuss it if we need to move it, okay? New business you can't have an open anything else agenda item, right? Okay. Publicity falls in, okay, all right, so there is another topic that wants to be on the next agenda that has been raised by a few people. And it's called coordinating the message or publicity or whatever we
is
want
that
to call
not
it.
outreach?
Outreach ad hoc committee is the committee of this group that figures out what postcards we send out, how do we tell people about the project. And there's been some town news releases going out about the project that caused some concern to other people about when is information going out and what's it saying.
Who's putting it out?
George.
That
Yeah, so.
What's going
There was
on?
some interviews in the newspaper and stuff that happened before, there's just some stuff, and I think we want to be able to talk about that in this room as an agenda item. So what would we call that?
I think it is outreach.
Yeah, I
It's
think it
outreach.
is too.
Outreach.
I think it falls
Okay,
under
so we
that.
can talk about that later, okay, so let's go, so master plan is
We can
dead,
talk
Right.
about it.
library ad hoc committee, you have a report?
No.
No, okay.
He's open though.
Library ad hoc committee, I was gonna ask under that one, since we passed this one. Is this a typo, 92 on the library?
No.
These
Yeah,
are supposed to add up to
I actually, I wondered
890,000,
about
are
the
they
fiscal
just?
Yes.
impacts in general.
Good,
I
good
can't see
call.
what you're
Right here.
pointing.
This last
The
paragraph,
fiscal impact,
under fiscal impact,
right.
I think that's what, I think that's what the town has asked the JPA
For
to
time.
allocate to the town for this portion of the process, isn't that
Okay.
right?
Correct.
How much is it?
1.2?
million for this year.
Sounds familiar.
I think that was
Double check.
on our agenda at the last meeting.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna leave that
I'm
alone.
pretty sure
Number's
that's what
been
that
consistent,
is.
1.2, but I never understood what it meant.
Well, what I've done is, and, you know, at this point, not knowing exactly, taking the square footage of the library and its cost, square footage of the other building, and kind of out in the building part, and kind of allocating those costs. The donations part may be minimized right now because we're front-loading these other things, the environmental stuff that is eligible to be paid for by the town. Once we get to design, the percentage distribution should carry forward.
But
But the library number is really big.
yeah, what is it
I
significant?
know it
that
started
it
with
is?
a library question, but the whole fiscal impact, I don't even understand. So the building capital, that's from the building department, right?
That's right, those are the fees.
To
for
replace
community development.
the
Yes, to
tent,
replace
but
the.
then what's capital improvement?
That's what the city calls whatever comes out of the general fund. So right now, because you're able to spend general fund money on the overall process until you start design. So there's no donations in there because.
Yeah.
How did you get to that amount?
Yeah, how does this total, the total's about 1.8 million.
It's from it's from a time-loaded or schedule-loaded budget based on that budget, and how much I expected we'd expend this fiscal year for the.
That's for this fiscal year, so
Only.
that,
But that number is so close to the money, the amount that I thought we had in the building department fund. Like, we had like 1.82 million.
it's a little over two.
Two,
It's true.
so does that have any correlation when you add this up? Is that anything?
Only that I was limited by how much money was available. So the library has whatever, 8 million or something, so I could have gone up to that, but I limited it to this year's need. The building fund has about 2 million, it didn't need the full 2 million. The other is limited based on the percentage allocation of the different functions.
Okay, and then so the library fund was based on what? How did you get the 1.12?
it's- I have a spreadsheet that I could show you, but it's based on how much was available, but that's the maximum. And then what I did is distribute the costs based on the schedule for each of those functions. So I have the costs of, design, outreach, whatever we had, broken out into the, like, 3 or 4 fiscal years.
So, let me ask you, so is this a calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal,
So this goes through next June,
correct.
which is also the library JPA's fiscal
Correct.
year.
So are you,
And that is what was requested by the town of Atherton to take out of the donor fund pool for this fiscal year. And the JPA governing board approved that at its last meeting.
okay, and is it already allocated fully to different uses? The 1.2?
Not separately. All, those funds would all be combined and then be spent for environmental, geotechnical, project management going forward. Now, once we start design, we do not have sufficient funds in there for the design firm. So, once,
Right.
once we hire the design, that's gonna have to go to council with a recommendation and a funding plan that, so it may be you can only fund the design up through schematic with the funds you have, and then, then you're gonna have to go back to then you're gonna have to go back to the donors.
So that needs to go on the agenda probably for September or October. How do you pay for the design?
But the
Prior to
library
fundraising.
has it, the library would have it.
Well,
right?
you can, that's up to council. Council can front some money. They can front library funds, they
Just
can
for
front
library,
building
yeah.
funds. So I suppose it's theoretically possible that they could fund the entire design, recognizing that there's a risk that money'd have to be paid back if
So
you
why
didn't
don't,
go forward.
why don't we agendize that for our September meeting? Okay, thank you. Okay, unless that's a budget ad hoc, no, it's not. Okay, outreach, anything to talk about, Paul?
Well, I just think it's all schedule related. I was wondering about the staff recommendation here about the release of any stay tuned messages out to the town. Didn't know what that was about. And if that's been discussed before.
Oh, let's do that now. So why don't we talk about it now? So, Gordon, how do we, how, I don't think how to say this. So, how do we coordinate a message with staff so that it doesn't get out there early?
I think we have the ad hoc committee or somebody we delegate meet with staff and talk to them, but this issue, this postcard issue, has come up in discussions between staff and council members. And I think we've talked about some concern that there's this lull. I mean, people in the town don't know what's going on right now.
Right,
This thing is out of mind.
sure, right.
And I personally feel concerned about that. I also feel concerned about getting out there with the wrong message. So I think if there could be a well-designed postcard that went out to people that basically let them know that, we're hiring a project manager, we're starting the RFP for an architect, this thing is moving forward and you're gonna hear more about it in the fall.
Yes.
I think that's an important message to get out to the residents. I don't know if you all agree with
I
that.
would agree with that.
But I'm
But it has to be
concerned
that.
that, you know, it's sort of out of mind, out of sight, and people aren't
Yeah,
focused
yeah,
on it.
I don't disagree with that. I think with the rumblings I've heard here and there are, how do we not, the fear is that staff will just send something out without running it by this committee, and that we may have mixed messages.
Right.
Like if someone were to say, here's the new Atherton campaign team and they're raising money right now, here's what they're doing. Hey, the campaign team wants to be in charge of that PR. We don't want somebody else to. We wear those hats, you wear the hat. We want to control our own PR for what's happening in that.
It's really important to keep it contained until we're ready to
Yeah,
launch
in
it.
terms of the,
Specific messages.
yeah, the staff owns that. They have the project manager RFPs have come in, that they've made a select, they're recommending to council, that they're doing the geotag, that the next step will be to send out an RFP for an architect. Totally makes sense. But how do we coordinate a message?
What
Is
is
it-
the
I
message?
think we meet.
Just the timing of when you say things, like on the
I think
postcard.
that you, as the committee chair, or the outreach committee meets with staff and talks about that, so as long as you have communication with staff,
Right,
I mean, from a council perspective, that's what I'm speaking from right now, as the liaison, it's extremely helpful for me to meet with staff once a week, because I maintain that communication.
right.
And, you know, I mean, they're living it, and I'm personally worried that this thing's getting out of mind, and like the image of the Civic Center that HMC came up with, that we've sort of used almost as a logo, I don't know if people in the town have really focused on it. I'd love to send out a postcard with that little image saying, we've hired a project manager, just letting you know, we've hired a project manager, we're in the process of putting together an RFP for the architect, we expect to hire the architect this fall, you're gonna hear a lot more about this fall, we're moving forward with the Civic Center project. So, I mean,
No, I
I'm
hear-
not trying to use, give you
no,
words, I'm just
totally
concept.
agree. What I'm asking is perhaps, if George were here, what I would ask George is, George, before you send out a press release, can you bring it in front of this group?
Yes, please.
We're
So
meeting
that's what
once
you
a
referred
month.
to earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be my request to George.
And George's understanding for a postcard right now is
Yeah.
a simple, straightforward postcard that has status,
Right.
highlights status and next
Some
steps.
bullet points.
Right.
And can this group see it and approve it? That's what we're asking.
I don't see why not.
Okay,
Before it goes out.
yeah, and
You're
if
saying
we
this group, or are you talking about the subcommittee?
well, I think this
Yeah.
group's good. The subcommittee might work with George, but it's
Well,
gonna want
let's
to
try
come
to have it
together.
in, let's try to have it at the, I'm just worried about timing, let's try to have it at the August meeting then.
Yeah, August 11th, it should come out.
It's true, people are going away and on vacation, so if it comes out right after the August meeting, it'll catch people as they're coming back. That
Yeah.
probably makes sense.
Pre-Labor
don't you
Day,
think?
yeah.
Well, I agree with that, actually. I think the timing of that is fine. Moving forward into the fall, I think a lot of this outreach is really gonna be schedule dependent as
Yeah.
to what's coming up and what the message needs to be. I disagree with you slightly, Rick, in that, it may be slightly out of mind, but I don't know that we've had a lot to report up until the RFP for the project manager.
Yeah, I agree
But I
with
think the timing is crucial as we get into fall now, and August is good, just to give an update, and as we move forward into the crucial times that we're gonna have in September, October, November, to be consistent with the message going out and the updates.
Correct. Right, yeah, and so, right. And it, can we make that request to you, or do we just put it in our minutes? What do we do? Teresa, how do we handle
To
it?
put it on the agenda.
Can I call a friend?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
You want a lifeline?
So are you asking how to get it on the agenda?
How do we communicate this request to George, that anything PR regarding the town center, the Atherton Civic Centers, we'd like it to come to us,
Okay.
to approve it,
I can
Before
relay
it
that.
goes.
before it goes out, because like there've been interviews in the paper and stuff,
We
we,
really need to control that.
I have a
You
recommendation.
should. It'll
okay.
control that.
Yeah, we're just asking that we get consulted before it goes out in the press.
I'll talk to him about that.
Okay, we, thank you.
I recommend that you schedule a meeting with him
Yeah.
as the chair of the committee. I think that it would be really good just to have that dialogue.
I can help you doing that, Steve.
Thanks.
Just so he understands why we're asking.
Yeah, and we're not trying to, like, he does his city manager report, do it, you know, and then this week this happened and that means it. It's just the true PR that goes out. We'd like to coordinate it. Okay.
Now, I think that's a separate issue from what the recommendation is. Are we talking about the same thing, or are you talking about George making this stay tuned postcard with an
I think he's
update?
talking about separate issues.
Separate
I'm not
issue.
sure what the issues are, I haven't